Sounds great.
Wow, that's awesome. It's great.
Thank you so much.
Wow, welcome everybody. I think everyone's joining us today. We have close to 100 people here. Wonderful, wonderful everybody. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. First of all, my name is Dr. Jeff Kim, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Ponanen. I am an English teacher at CVA, and welcome everyone to our first of the CVA Speaker Series. This series is an opportunity to hear untold stories that are shaping communities and sparking social innovation, whether it's grassroots movements or bold entrepreneurial ventures. We explore how everyday people are pollinating the world with purpose.
That's right, Miss Lindsay. Today is a special day as we are launching our first CVA speaker series with none other than our very own AUHSD Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Michael Matsuda. Thank you so much for being our very first CVA speaker.
Wow, what an honor. Thank you, you guys. Looking forward to this.
Now, just a little bio about Superintendent Matsuda. He is a nationally recognized 21st century educational leader known for his innovation, entrepreneurship, and compassion. He'll very frequently talk about compassion. Under his leadership, Anaheim Union High School District has built a new educational model called the Career Preparedness Systems Framework, which is transforming educational opportunities for all students, centering on their own voice and purpose. So, CVA students, especially many of us here, the fingerprints of a lot of what we get to do is because of the leadership, direction, and vision of Superintendent Matsuda. Superintendent Matsuda, I want to give you a bird's eye view of our speaker session for today. It'll be about half an hour and divided up into three parts. The first part will be a quick intro and an opportunity for you to share your story. The second part, the main course, will be about 5 questions that Ms. Pennanen and I will go ahead and ask you. And then lastly, there'll be a conclusion, a special challenge to our CVA students. So CVA students, you want definitely those antennas up because you're going to want to think about how you want to apply this here at CVA. But I have a feeling Superintendent Matsuda is going to talk about beyond CVA as well. So at this time, we're going to give the superintendent the opportunity to tell his story. Would you be able to tell us a little bit of your story becoming a superintendent of Anaheim Union High School District?
Thank you, Dr. Kim, and welcome, students. It's really an honor to be here to kick off the speaker series. My story began like with you guys, and with my parents and grandparents. My mom was a freshman at Anaheim High School on December 7th, 1941. I know that was a long, long time ago, but that is a big date in U.S. history. December 7th was when the Japanese bombed America at Pearl Harbor, and that created a backlash of sort of anti-Japanese in this country, even though my mom was a citizen. Remember, she's a freshman. She's at your age, high school kid at Anaheim High School. And all of a sudden, just being swept away, literally. Her family they were put into what's euphemistically called an internment camp, but really it's a concentration camp. And all of her rights were taken away. Her parents, they lost their property and had to go away to Poston, Arizona. Now, and she was not able to graduate from Anaheim High School until 1997, when I became a teacher in the district at Orangeview Junior High School in 1993-94, and I read in the paper that there were other districts giving the diplomas to students who were interned many years before. So I called our superintendent, Dr. Jan Billings, and she agreed that this would be a nice gesture, symbolic gesture to help right a wrong in the Anaheim Union High School District. So my mom received her diploma from Anaheim High School, and she did insist, though, for her to get her diploma, she wanted the school to honor Mr. Demaray, who was the principal then. He became the superintendent later. And I said, what did he do? And she said, well, he's long passed, but he did something very courageous, because you can imagine all the anti-Japanese sentiment. and a lot of the teasing that they and other Japanese American kids took. He had an assembly, and he said, I will not tolerate any discrimination against these 16 Japanese Americans who are American citizens who have to be sent away. And that was a very heroic thing to do back then, and she wanted our district to acknowledge his what he did. So later on in 2014, I become the first superintendent, minority superintendent, to lead this district. My mom had passed in 2013, a year prior. But, you know, one of the lessons that I take away, and I tell young people, that the United States, the founders of the United States, really had an amazing vision when they created this country. And that vision it's up to us to help make that real. And I think I'm so proud of the work that we've done in this district to help make the initial dream of becoming American, of achieving the American dream possible. And through my life, and now through what we're building at CVA, a new way of doing school, of making school more relevant and more meaningful for our students. So that's my story in a few minutes, and I'm going to stick by that.
Okay, so thank you so much for sharing your story. That was really beautifully told and really inspirational, I think, to me and to so many in our audience. We'd like to switch gears a little bit. We have some kind of specific questions and just want to get a picture of so many aspects of what made you so successful that you can share with all of us. So the first of these is, I want you to think about, so we're at CVA, we're the bees. We think in terms of the, concepts. So what's the hive for you? What's the community that helps shape who you are today? And you did touch on quite a bit of that today. So thinking about now, how do you build that hive and maintain it? What are the places, the people, the practices that kind of renew your energy and help you feel capable of being as successful and impactful as you are?
Well, I think one of the big changes we made were this concept of the 5 Cs and shifting beyond test scores to make school more relevant to young people. And really the 5 Cs, if you guys have heard of the term emotional intelligence, that's really what it is. It's about leadership, and it's about learning how to navigate the world and lead. It takes a lot of emotional intelligence to understand who you are and to be okay with who you are, and look to, it's grounded in self-compassion and hopefully building compassion for others. And that's why the teachers are so important to creating these experiences. We call them performance task assessments and reflections about those experiences. So that's a huge instructional shift that the district is leading, not only in California, but nationally. We have a lot of people coming in to look at things that we're doing in CVA, and CVA is such a great place. Not only is it a metaphor for what schools can be and what learning can be, but it's happening right now. This series that you guys are creating, it's like all this creation coming from teachers and students thinking of great ideas and great ways to make school more relevant, more meaningful in a world arguably that is undergoing a lot of shifts, and a lot of young people are questioning the value of a K-16 education. So I think there's a sense of urgency out there, but we ground everything we do in this construct called the 5 Cs, and I'm most proud of that.
Thank you, Superintendent Matsuda. The next topic is what's the sting? So once again, there's so much legacy that you've left behind. When we think about amazing superintendents who have made a difference for our country, you're definitely one of the top. But there must have been a challenge or a setback that taught you resilience in your life. So what is a challenge or setback that taught you resilience?
Well, I have a lot of them. And I think when you're are kind of a transformational leader and you want to change things, and I'm always questioning things like, why do we do it this way? Why do we do it that way? And when people say, well, that's the way we've always done it, that is not a good enough answer. So there are, whenever you try to change things, and think about this too, we unyoke teachers from test scores and reading and math. And like a lot of our neighboring districts, they focus on test scores, and they, in their minds, they equate great schools with great test scores. And I don't disagree with that. You know, AP pass rates are important, or SAT numbers are important, but it's not the only measure of what's a great school. So I'm constantly questioning that. And I think examples early on when we moved away from test scores, a lot of parents were questioning that, even teachers were questioning that. But then when we focused on making school more relevant with these amazing projects that teachers came up with, I think that was the beginning of the change. The other big change we've made in terms of what teaching is and allowing teachers to rethink their own profession. We have many teachers that think across content areas. You think about the problem of solving global warming, for example. There's no major in global warming, and there's no class specifically in global warming. But global warming needs teachers that can teach across their content, whether it's English, history, or science, or math, and being open to teaching across content. There are traditional teachers that don't want to do that, that say, I don't teach global warming, I teach whatever. And I think that's been challenging, but really the leadership of teachers, like you have teachers here that are hosting this and are part of CVA, there are teachers who really have a more of a innovative mindset when it comes to teaching and learning. So my message to you young people is to embrace the challenges, and maybe people are the failures, because that's where the most learning is. When you fail at something, you feel bad, but you have to pause and reflect about what went right and how can I improve. And if you can build that mindset and internalize that as you go through life, you're going to get better and better, not only with going through college and getting a job, but also you're going to get better at relationships. And I think the key in life is developing a mindset to improve your relationships, beginning with the relationship with yourself, and having positive self-love. And then you can build on that and build healthy relationships with others.
Thank you so much. So you brought it, you talked so much about failure and what we learned from that. And then you ended with this idea of relationships with yourself and others. And that kind of leads to our next question, which is about, bees toil and toil and toil to produce honey, which helps their hive thrive, right? What is honey to you? What is the success? Like, what does it mean to be successful, or what are you working for? And I know you have had this massive legacy with AUHSD, but I don't think it stops here. Like, what does success look like to you, and what are you after to feel satisfied with your life?
You know, I think all of us should be asking those questions about and things about. We need to change our mindset of what is successful, because we're taught that there are winners and losers, right? Whenever there are winners, there's always going to be losers, and nobody wants to be labeled as a quote loser. I'm not saying that we are Pollyannish and say everybody's a winner, but I think that we need to move beyond this, winners or losers. Life is really a continuum, and it's a journey. And success is not so much where you end, but how you get there in this journey. And along that journey, it's really about how you treat each other, right? And treat each other. And it's, people have heard of the golden rule, like, you treat others how you want to be treated. And again, that begins with yourself and your own self-talk, because sometimes we beat up on ourselves, and that leads to unhealthy self-esteem, and that could lead to, addictions and drugs and all that stuff. So a healthy self-love is really, really important. That's why I think the fifth C is probably the most important of the C's. They're all important, but self-compassion and self-love. And to define success internally of meaning being unconditionally loving. And I think that's what success is. If we can be unconditional, we can learn from our, quote, mistakes to be better people. If we are less motivated by money and by what society tells us success should be in a certain way you look or a car you drive or stuff like that. Because if you're driven by what others define success being, then you're never going to make it. You're always going to feel that you're not successful, and that's really unhealthy. I think success is really about finding joy in life and being present with people around you. So when they look back at you and that relationship, they're going to smile. I would say that would be successful. And for me, it's the same thing. At the very granular level of life, I think success is about self-love and love for others. And that's a lot easier said than done.
Superintendent, just love that message about compassion for yourself and compassion in general. Oftentimes I hear about pedagogy and strategies and innovation, but not that conversation about compassion. So always appreciate how you emphasize that. And of course, I know as we've done this work here in Anaheim Union High School District, you've made a great impact not only in our district, but our city, and not only our city, but our county, and not only our county, but our nation. And some may even see the world. And I know even Principal Hilda Vasquez, she would say CVA is for world pollination. So we're always thinking about making a difference for the world. So I'm going to ask you this question. What's one global issue you'd love to swarm with innovative solutions?
Blue zones. I think that blue zones are places in the world where there's a disproportionate number of people who live to be 100. And there have been a lot of studies about that, right? Both culture, nutrition, exercise, but grounded in purpose. What is it that brings you joy? And every day, what helps you get up in the morning? And I would love that Anaheim become a blue zone where we are very aware of, that we want to all live to be 100 in a healthy way, because I think sometimes the medical profession just extends life without extending the quality of life. I mean, in terms of really focus on the human side of life. And that's why I'm really into sort of looking at students and families as assets rather than deficits. Too many of schools consider students deficits, like kicking them out of school and that sort of thing. So I think that you guys, students should look up the concept of blue zone, and there's a documentary on Netflix about that. So I think that would be something to create a movement around this blue zones. What does that mean, and how can we promote healthy, emotionally, physically awareness and health in our communities to live to be 100?
Oh, that's so inspiring. You're absolutely right. So would you say that that is like the one idea we call this golden pollen, the thing you're really after, the one idea you hope that spreads everywhere and that's important to you, or do you have other things that you really just you want to share? Like there's an idea in the world that you hold that you're like, I wish everyone would have just thought of this or embraced this because the world would be a better place that way.
I was really fortunate to be invited to India to meet His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I had like an
Mhm.
hour and 15 minutes pretty much alone with him and the former mayor Tate, who's a good friend. Um, and it was just incredible because of this person who is revered, by some people as a god, right? Um, he's very human, and he would say, "No, that's not what I am." But he was interested in meeting me as someone who represents educators, and he said that the key is really in your hands in terms of modeling compassion and love. Teachers, the world is in such crisis, right? With young people really getting more and more lost. And I think the grounding across religions is really about love and compassion. And if we can intentionally model that with so many millions and millions of teachers around the world, there's a lot of hope and optimism. Because I think young people, you guys who are listening, when I talk to you, I see one of the most compassionate generations ever in this country in terms of how loving you are with each other and resisting this sort of outside influences trying to, through fear and creating this otherness, what we call otherness within our society. And that's what happened to my parents. My parents were your age and they were labeled as the other, like not human, dehumanizing them. Let's put them in a concentration camp. So I do have a lot of hope, beginning with what the Dalai Lama told me about compassion and about teachers modeling this across the world, but also building on this generation, your generation of students who probably are the most compassionate generation ever the world has seen.
Superintendent, we're now moving on to part three of our sharing today. We had about 93 folks in here, but now 98. And is there a challenge that you want to leave our students? There might be some other community members as well. So as you think about the work that you've done, the legacy that you've left, you've done it. And in some ways, I know you're passing the baton to many of us to continue that good work. What challenge would you like to give our students and community?
Well, when I see CVA is a new type of school, right? And many of the teachers are embracing AI. The board is totally embracing it. And I see AI as a powerful way to uplift what I just talked about, all the 5 C's and being human. There's a lot of monetizers, corporate monetizers and unfortunately other districts that are using AI to increase test scores or whatever for the wrong reasons, I think. And there are schools now that are developed that are growing schools without teachers. They're taught by AI. I really think that Anaheim Union High School District, led by CVA, can help develop a new model where teachers, students, and AI are working together on really developing meaningful learning experiences that are going to uplift student capacity. And I also think that students need to be taught how to use AI tools to solve problems in the world. We have a number of teachers that are trained in entrepreneurship, how to use the street data to position students to solve problems and eventually learn how to monetize those problems with AI tools. I think that's the way of the future. Many of your generation, it's scary because the jobs are being swept away by AI. So it's really incumbent of K-12 education to sort of ensure that students have the AI fluency to solve problems and also learn how to create whole new job sectors for their generation.
Wow, thank you so much for saying that. I think you've given us a lot to think about. We have one more question for you. And in this sense, we are going to connect all of the CVA speaker series because we're asking you as your final question, what is something you think we should ask our next person? And then we're going to ask them to leave one for the next. So it'll be like a little connective tissue. So what question do you want them to answer?
Yeah, I think, the metaphor of the hive and bees, I think continue that metaphor in terms of how, CVA can be a model for, an incubator for education. And what does that mean for the next speaker? What advice would they have? I think that it's still evolving. Obviously, CVA is our newest school. You students represent this new way of teaching and learning with our teacher, and amazing teachers that we have. And I would like to see more outside districts and students or districts embrace the CVA model. And if not, why not come to CVA? And I think that students sharing your experiences with through social media with students outside the district and sharing, hey, if it's not working for you, why don't you come over here? Because we're all about this metaphor of the hive and pollinating across the world. So that's, I think that might be a question, some sort of version of that from the next speaker.
Perfect. Thank you.
Wow, this has been tremendous. We've received so much wisdom and compassion. Superintendent Matsuda, we're so thankful for your service and leadership for so many years. In AUHSD, there have been many firsts that you have led, as you know. And here right now, our first speaker series, CVA Speaker Series, once again, you are our first. And it's kind of an homage, I feel, to you, an homage to future talks, homage of your many firsts. And I thought maybe with the final words, perhaps Hilda Vasquez, who really thought a lot about the speaker series as well and contributed to this. Hilda Vasquez, she wanted us to lead this, but Hilda, would you share some thoughts, Hilda, at this time, just to close and wrap up this time?
Okay, Dr. Kim and Ms. Planen and Mr. Matsuda. I was telling the students earlier this morning that this is a dream come true. I mean, I love what we do here at CVA, but most importantly, I love humans and I love people. I think there's so much power in telling of stories, and you're not going to find a bigger group of courageous students and families who have invested their journeys here in AUHSD through UC CVA and taking that leap of faith and finding something that really works for them. And we talk a lot about personalized learning and making space for people's stories, especially in an environment where AI is becoming so prevalent. So I want to thank the team. I want to thank you, Mr. Matsuda, for sharing your story. And we look forward, students, to sharing even more of our community change makers out there so that we could, you know, uh, achieve our goal of world pollination. I'm just so excited, and I want to thank the team for putting it together. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mr. Matsuda.
thanks, you guys. I hope you, Lindsay and Jeff, get some feedback from the students too. I think in terms of what I would love to hear from them too and what they thought. So thank you.
Thank you so much.